accomplish a lot of what we wanted to do. It's just we got to do a better job in the red zone. And when you're 3 for 7, you're not going to win many games.
Well, it's as simple as this. The red zone decided the game last night, as it always does with Rodgers. Those are the numbers since he became their starting quarterback. When they have that many chances in the red zone, they basically always win when they convert, and they don't when they don't. And last night they didn't. And so let's bring it out. There was so much to unpack from this great game last night. Acho, what was your first thought last night?
I'm up late. I'm watching the game, and the first thing that came to mind, Greeny, I was thinking of you, actually, and it was what you said yesterday.
Who among us wasn't?
It was what you said yesterday when you said the Eagles needed this to save their season. And I was like, Greeny's exactly right. This win saved the Eagles season, because if they don't win this game, it's just a treacherous schedule going forward. But now that they won this game, not only does it help their schedule, but more importantly, look at them. I think now that the Eagles might actually be the best team in the NFC East.
Well, we're going to talk about it because the Cowboys have 2 very losable games back-to-back. But let's start by diving into this. What do we think, John Vilma, of throwing the ball 4 times from the 1-yard line?
I absolutely hate it. And that summed up the whole game, because I hated watching the script of this now Green Bay Packers going back to what they were. Pass, pass, pass. Aaron Rodgers left, Aaron Rodgers right. We're going to figure out something, and then Aaron Rodgers make a play for us, and then all of a sudden now they can't win a game because the defense isn't there and the run game isn't there. I hate it, and they need to get back to running the ball.
Mark, that 3rd down we just saw there is the run-pass option, and then 4th down, they wind up with the long play here that he's looking for somebody. Where do you think it went wrong, Mark Sanchez?
If they catch one more ball in this game, it's a very different conversation. I'm not worried about the Packers at all.
So explain that. If Jimmy Graham holds on to one of those 2.
Jimmy Graham catches it, the last play of the game, they catch it. The DBs had a miscommunication, I think. I think the corners, they're supposed to pass those guys off. Aaron makes a great throw. Catch the ball. Just catch one ball. One tough catch for me. Guys made catches down the field. Allison makes big catches in the 2-minute drive. You talked about it, Bobby. Catch one more ball for me, and it's a very different conversation.
So you're not worried that every game before that, they ran the ball almost 50% of the time. And then now they go back to Aaron Rodgers win for us, and you're not concerned about that long term for the Packers and for Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not concerned about giving Aaron Rodgers the ball ever.
Here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers threw for over 400 yards. Carson Wentz threw for less than 200. One team won and one team didn't because of the fact they were able to run the ball. You have to be able at some point to pick up a yard. And the other thing about Aaron running that RPO, he didn't grow up in the system. He's a guy that's 36 years old. He didn't run RPOs in high school and college. The young quarterbacks did. I don't enjoy putting my veteran quarterback, no matter how good of an athlete he is, in those situations with stuff he really hasn't grown up with.
Mark, let's talk about that play. Here it is. This is, well, that one there is the second down.
Great play by Brandon Graham, by the way. Just not going for the fake at all. Running to the deepest player, running straight for the quarterback, ready for the boot. That's discipline.
And then the RPO that they run on the 3rd down, you were telling me, you learned that late in your career.
So late in my career, I had to run some of these run pass options and zone reads. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't realize that when the end crashes and you keep the ball down in the red zone, things get tighter. The free safety realizes it's a run. He's the one who covered the quarterback. Aaron should walk in the end zone, and that's what he's thinking, in my opinion, watching the game. But he doesn't realize you get down tight in the end zone like that, the safety has no other responsibility. He runs after the quarterback.
So maybe the point that what you're making here is that by putting Rodgers, as great as he is, into something he's not that comfortable doing yet down by the goal line, it's a mistake. At the end of the day, Mark's one point, though, John, as much as I agree with what you're saying, run the ball in the darn end zone.
Yes.
But if one of those passes is held on to, we're leading the show this morning with Aaron Rodgers is back.
He's had the game that everybody's expecting.
But here's the thing. He's always been great. There's never a time that we ever question Aaron Rodgers' ability. We never question, can he throw the ball? We never question, can he make the reads? He can do that. We know he can do that. We need them to run the ball. It's a team game.
Don't you feel like some of the conversation, though, this week, Acho, has, and the last couple of weeks has been, is this the right offense for Rodgers? Is he comfortable?
Question it because of LaFleur.
I think the answer comes down to
they didn't know.
Rodgers never left. And I think after last game, we saw Rodgers never left. The question now for me is LaFleur and the play calling issues, specifically in the red zone when things start to tighten up. But like Sanchez said, Rodgers was throwing long handoffs. I mean, you couldn't walk down and hand it to a receiver any better. Rodgers never left. LaFleur has to match.
Final word on this.
If you think about this, Vilma, you played with Jimmy Graham. I played against the guy. If he's in New Orleans, he's catching those footballs. Rodgers put him where he needed to be. He was the best jump ball catcher you're going to find in the red zone. I was surprised that he didn't come down with one of them.
Again, it's a very different narrative this morning if he does. Meanwhile, let's talk about what the Eagles did right on the offensive side of the football in particular. Bobby, you made the point in our meeting this morning. They just do whatever they need to do on a given night to win. Here's an example of that. Wentz, welcome back, Alshon Jeffrey.
And this is what Doug Peterson does. He's not going to get married to throwing the football. He's a West Coast guy. They love to sling it around. And Alshon Jeffrey's a great player, but they went back to pounding the football when they needed to, and that's a big key. Smart coaches like Bill Belichick, Doug Peterson, Andy Reid, they don't want to sit there and, hey, here's our game plan to throw it 50 times, and that's what we're going to do. If we need to run it, and that's the best way to win, that's the way we'll do it.
That was Dallas Goedert with the touchdown there, and then here's this play again. 11 yards. John, where are they?
I don't know. Still looking for them. They're in the locker room. I don't know where they are.
It's just ridiculous. Howard, meanwhile, would finish this game 15 carries, 86 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and he caught one. So he has a big night, and the Eagles come away with a 34-27 win that they really, genuinely, desperately needed to have.
Feels huge, especially the point of the season that we're at. Going 2-2 is a heck of a lot better than being 1-3. Thursday night game on the road in Lambeau. A lot of things, working against us this week. But to come in here and fight to the end, the defense coming up big at the end, a huge win for us.
And so to the point that Bob made a moment ago, they didn't throw the ball all over the place last night, but they ran it for 175 yards. And including yesterday, they're now 24-6. When Wentz has at least 100 rushing yards from his offensive team, they're just 1-13 when they're under that amount. So pretty simple. Eagles run the ball and they win. They don't run the ball and they don't. What did you make of what the Eagles did last night on the offensive side of the ball, Vilma?
Particularly running to Green Bay's right, their left, Green Bay's right. They had a lot of success. And going back to Aaron Rodgers and talking about these great quarterbacks that we have, when you run the ball, it makes it so much harder for a defensive coordinator to call plays. And then it makes it harder for a linebacker. Bobby's been there, Acho's been there, when you're like, man, they are running it down my throat. All of a sudden, I have to sit there, read, run, and try to get back out in the passing game versus one of these top-notch quarterbacks.
The Eagles were efficient. If you hopped on social media last night, everybody was like, oh, Carson Wentz, he went 16 for 27, had a horrible game. The dude threw touchdown passes on 19% of his completions. The Eagles went to the red zone 4 times, and they scored 4 times. The Eagles' offense was totally efficient. Yeah.
I love Jordan Howard getting involved. Finally, that's what I wanted to see. This Eagles offense took off. But I'm telling you, the turning point in the game right before halftime was the Barnett strip sack, Brandon Graham with the recovery, and then at the end of the game, Malcolm Jenkins, savvy, veteran, defensive player. You played with him. He's one of the best in the game. He makes that play at the end and tips that ball.
And to your point, one thing,
the Eagles
have coached forever because here's what flies under the radar. If you're watching the game at home, everybody knows, oh, what a great sack. No, what a great strip sack. And then you see Jenkins at the end of the game, the leader on that team ever since getting to Philly 5 or so years ago. That play makes the game. The Eagles defense, they're not like the vaunted Bears defense. No, they'll bend. But when it comes time to make a play, Greeny, they will find a way to make a play.
They did. They have a great defensive line. And even with Fletcher Cox a little bit nicked up last night, they were still able to get enough pressure to affect the quarterback position. Anytime you can do that, that's winning football. And you mentioned Jordan Howard getting involved. He had 15 carries. Every one of them was between the tackles. We haven't seen this since LeGarrette Blount was there a couple years ago. They like to use this running back by committee piece, and this is the hammer that you need inside.
And this is what Howard was going to bring them when he came from the Bears. Howard was one of the most slept-on running backs in the league.
I agree.
When he was in Chicago, and I think you played with him, Sanchez, he's just a grinder. It doesn't matter the weather.
So, guys, tell me, what is any different than having Green Bay run the same type of offense? That is exactly my point. What is the difference? You have really good quarterbacks, get a run game and help them out. Help Aaron Rodgers out.
We have so much more to do on this game. Maybe we can sort of wrap up this part of the conversation where it began. You cannot give the Eagles enough credit for this win last night. Thursday night on the road. The stats on that are incredibly difficult. To go into Lambeau against a really good team and get a win that saves their season. If the Eagles go deep in the playoffs this year, think back to last night. That was the night everything turned for them. We'll get back to that. In the meantime, around the league we go. In 3 weeks, the question in Dallas has gone from how much are they going to pay Dak Prescott to how much can they pay Dak Prescott? He's second in the league in touchdowns. He's completing 75% of his passes. He leads the league in QBR, but he isn't worried about his new deal.
The reason we're having contract talks is because of what I do on the field. So that's the main focus, and that's my focus in everything I do. I mean, talk about the ads, the marketing, and all this stuff. I know realistically none of that happens if I'm not handling my business on the field. So for me, it's about taking care of that.
Handling his business, he most certainly is. Ultimately, you're judged on winning. Prescott has won 35 times since he came into the league. That's the second most wins by a quarterback in that span. Only Tom Brady has more. And I'm just going to lay this out for those of you. We have such interesting meetings on Friday mornings with this group. Mark Sanchez is ready to fight anybody who says a bad word about Dak Prescott. You are all in on Prescott.
All in. I love the answer. I love his focus. I love exactly what he said. He means it. He works his butt off. He's finally